what would it take to add another 5 to 10 million into your agency in the next 18 months?
Is finding a correct group or an engine of onboarding or sales.
So here's what's coming for me right now for you. Welcome to Stories from Your Future Self, the podcast where I help leaders like you create deep, powerful revenue breakthroughs in only minutes. I'm your host, Bogdan, and before we start, check out my upcoming book, Greatness and Mastery. It's packed with 10 martial arts and leadership principles that will give you the edge to join the top 0.01% without sacrificing your freedom. Secure your free copy of the book through the link in the description. Now let's jump into today's episode and explore how you can scale for freedom. We are here with Brady Dahmer, who is a seasoned agency owner with over 30 years of experience and the brilliant mind behind the newly released book, Blind Spots: How to Prepare for What You Don't See Coming. This is actually more than a handbook. It's your marketing survival guide. Brady's big dream is to empower entrepreneurs and startups by building a business dedicated to unlocking their full potential and their creative and marketing strategies. And what maybe most of you don't know is that I absolutely love marketers. My first ever business coach was first a fitness trainer, then a brilliant marketer. And the beauty is that marketers know exactly what they need to do to grow the business. They're masters in obviously marketing and sales. And it's a lot of deep inner work that I love doing with marketers. That being said, Brady, big welcome. Tell us a bit more about you. How'd you get into marketing? How did you fall in love with it? And what's the story behind the book?
Awesome. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on your show. Super excited about this and telling my story and getting coached. And yeah, I always love any kind of opportunity to kind of inspire and share my knowledge that I got given and just kind of, give it back. But yeah, my love of marketing came at a very early age. My mom was always big into the arts, so I always knew that I wanted to do something visual. And it was in high school in North America where I met my art teacher, and his wife was in marketing. And, I just always thought the arts was, everything you see at the gallery or everything else like that. But I didn't realize at the time there was a whole other field where it was marketing and branding, and you can use, your creativity in that way. So from that point on, I fell in love with advertising, with marketing. And then over the last, over 25 years, just kind of went to school for it. I worked in some very large agencies, but I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, you kind of know in the back of your mind, there's always the little itch that needs to be scratched. And that is, I need to go out and do this on my own. And, that sort of, you need that fulfillment of doing something, on your own and by yourself. And, from there, 25 years ago, or probably close to 20 years ago, I kind of left the corporate world and started my freelance agency. So starting off small, as a freelancer, and then, as the industry is very kind of accustomed in the industry, as you kind of, in the industry, you can build from 1 to 2, and you kind of just keep on outsourcing. It's a very, easy industry in that way to kind of, outsource and find people, to kind of to kind of fill in the blanks so you're big enough to kind of build it up. So at which point I had an agency of 12 people, and then COVID hit and the various things, and it kind of we scaled back and but also it gave me in that time too, when after all that, it gave me an idea to write this book based on a couple conversations I had with some friends and a past client of mine. And I thought that there was something missing in the industry, and this is sort of, I wrote this book to kind of fill that. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that. And, marketing is in many ways an art, and it's very unique in the sense that it is an art. You have to balance data and also creativity, right? Yeah. And if you can't do it yourself, it's wise to have a team and outsource the things that you're not the strongest at. Who were you working with initially when you started the agency, and who are you working with now?
Um, Actually, funny, let me answer your first question. Another reason with marketing and everything else, it's also an opportunity, I think, for my brain. I knew I couldn't be doing the same thing for same thing day in and day out.
Yeah,
I needed, my
yeah,
brain
yeah,
needed a new
yeah,
flex.
yeah.
So for
I
me,
resonate.
yeah, what's that?
I resonate with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of so for me it was an opportunity industry where I could keep continually learning, and I wasn't getting bored doing the same redundant things in and out, and that was kind of like, yeah, as scary as it is, you also learn a lot, but you have to have a lot of creativity and a lot of like curiosity in what you do. So that's, I think, the some of the best marketers see the world in different ways, and they can kind of, they're always asking questions. And for me, it was always how stuff is built. Like, I love seeing a great campaign and not just looking at the visuals and the beauty of it, but like you said, the mechanics of it, like what makes
Yeah.
it work, was always some
Yeah.
of the most interesting things to me. I was always that kid who played with their toys for an hour after Christmas, but inevitably they would be torn apart to figure out, how all the buzzers work and how it all, I'd be tearing things apart, and I'd be always interested. And that's, I think, when you're looking for great marketers and we're looking for great agencies, those people that, find the people that are innately curious, who figure out as beautiful as something is, the mechanics of how it work is probably even more
Yeah.
important than that, right?
You know,
So,
I always feel like because people ask me like, why did you become a coach? Like the truth is, you're always that,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
realize later on that it's actually a profession. And the way that you feel about marketing is the way that I've always felt about people. You know,
yeah, yeah.
why do people do what they do? What makes them tick? What's the mechanism behind
Hmm.
a certain result, let's say, or
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
outcome, right? So you have to be really obsessive about the stuff to get good at it.
yeah.
Um, Tell us a bit about the book. Like you mentioned, COVID was a huge catalyst for that. Is this your first book or
Yeah, it is my first official kind of book, but I felt, like with you and coaching and things like that, we always kind of figure out maybe how to build tools to kind of get people to uncover things for things. So I've built many tools in my day to help me better service my clients. But then when COVID hit, I got two calls literally within the same week. The first call was from a friend of mine, and their designer had their computer had crashed, and they said, okay, the designer's computer crashed. We need to do new brochures, but all of our files are lost. What can we do? And first question I asked them was like, where's your versions of the files? Like, where's your copies
right?
of all your assets, of all those photos, of all the stuff that had been done years over years? And I just, there was that very uncomfortable pause on the phone, be like, we don't have it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a big thing. So that's one of the first things I kind of, and literally a couple of days later, an old client, like a past client of ours, we did this beautiful kind of like meditation book for, and it had these gorgeous illustrations. The client hired the illustrator, outside of us, but she found this illustrator. She hired him. He did these gorgeous illustrations for her. But a year later, she found some of these illustrations on on his Etsy page. He had created some pillows and various other things with the designs from the book. So she was really
Mm,
worried that he was reselling something that she had paid for.
right.
But my first question to her was like, what were the licensing agreements? Sure, you paid for something, but what was your licensing agreements? And then again, that uncomfortable pause on the phone, being like, what's a licensing agreement? And she didn't realize that she was just kind of paying something for him to draw it, but he kind of owned the rights for it. So that was
Mm,
really what, after those two calls, I realized that there are, for small business and entrepreneurs and people just hiring any kind of contractor, that there's those gaps in information of like, they don't know what they don't know. And there's those things that we don't kind of learn in school, but we kind of, you know, we kind of almost we also need the contractor, the person to kind of know for us. But for a lot of times, if you're hiring someone that's new in the industry or something like that, that those questions aren't brought up. So I realized that there was this gap between kind of like what we learn in school, the theoretical stuff, and the actual stuff that kind of happens kind of in real
You
life.
don't say. You don't say.
Yeah, yeah. The
I
assumption.
use
Yeah.
everything I learned in school. I'm using every day in my business, but just by doing the opposite.
Yeah, and it's so all those things, all the assumptions that we make, and you know, all the things we kind of have to learn by just doing, kind of the hard way, And I've got multiple stories where, I didn't get a proper sign off on a brochure that got printed, and I thought just everything was good because the conversation with the client, we're just having a quick conversation and all good, and they're like all good, but I didn't get that written sign off from them for the print of the brochure.
Hmm.
And then, of course, needless to say, the blind spot and all of that was, there was a mistake. The phone number was wrong on the back, and they didn't properly check it. And so now the responsibly laid on me to reprint it because it was ultimately, although they said
Right.
okay, I didn't go through the proper steps and the checklist to kind of confirm that was all good. And as simple as they are, these simple things in life that we don't kind of, we kind of maybe skim through or go through very quickly. So it is like the book is called Blind Spots, and it's all those hidden things that will cost us either time, money, or energy, or relationships with any kind of marketing or branding project. So that's
Dude,
kind
these
of
are
yeah,
these are so important. Like somebody who used to really hate paperwork and not even use agreements and stuff like that for my coaching. My accountant had me do my coaching agreement like both English and Romanian, so it's valid and
yeah,
across the board. So I had to actually translate it. It was before we had GPT, and I finally read the thing, and that's when it like hit me like, dummy, you're doing this to save your own ass
yeah,
and to
yep,
keep your ass safe, right? It's very,
yeah,
very important. And that was like a huge shift. Final question
yeah,
before we get into the breakthrough. What's
yeah.
the story behind the rocket?
Oh, engineering again. It's just design for me. I love space. I love for me. It's always life is about exploration.
Hmm.
It's and for me, I love space. This was again this was a COVID buy as well, where it was like I had Lego, and I didn't do Lego since I was a kid, and so for me it's like, oh, this, I stumbled across a page, I'm sure through some sort of algorithm, and I just, oh, there was a spaceship. So I was like, you know what, I haven't done Lego in a long time. I'm sure it's very relaxing, and I was like, okay, let me just jump in and build it. And it was a chance to be a kid again.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of even forget that with life and business. We're really being an adult, but also seeing, especially when it comes to marketers and people that are creative, it's just, you know taking, I don't want to say the seriousness out of it, but also seeing the life or the world through another perspective of, not so much through a child's eyes, but sort of with, if you can come at it with curiosity and sort of like just let it go and just let things happen and experience things again, like be present. And so the Lego was such an enjoyment thing to do, and it was just, I had to stop. It was like, it's like doing puzzles or anything else like that, and it's sort of, and
I love it.
it's inspirational because it just, you look at, for me, NASA and the team, it takes a team of really dedicated, like for me also too, I love the mentality of what that was at that time during the Saturn V era of it takes a really passionate team to build something that's kind of extraordinary and will do extraordinary things, but you need everybody on board, and you need sort of like highly skilled people. You got to find the right people, and to me it's that sort of idea of,
Yeah.
teamwork will get you anywhere. Like really great teams, really great insights, really great passion, really passionate people will sort of
I
can take you anywhere.
This conversation is very synchronistic because I'm in the process of writing a book as well. It's called Greatness and Mastery: 10 Martial Arts Plus Leadership Principles that give you the edge to become a 0.01% leader. So
Yeah.
this is definitely something, that is touched upon in the book, of the importance of attracting the right people. Otherwise, you don't really have a business. Otherwise, you never,
Yeah.
like, the freedom you started for, you're never going to have it without the right people around you. And that's a
Yeah.
very powerful, North Star, very powerful reminder and anchor
Yeah.
towards that. Speaking of exploration, what could we explore in this conversation that would be insanely valuable for you?
Uh, Mindset, I guess, when it comes to sort of those things. I'm a big sort of mindset of how to kind of breakthroughs and things like that really happen, or sort of just getting up and going every day. What is that? This kind of idea of what's
Possible.
yeah, just sort of what keeps you going, and what sort of how do you keep going when, for instance, like now social media and algorithms take that much longer to kind of like get ramped up, and for you to be part of this. So right now, sales, again, I'm just beginning in sales, so not being discouraged or in that of how to keep my mental wellness up, so that I can kind of keep producing. And that's a really key thing, because it's sort of like, I'm sure like with any new thing, there's always a small group, and you gotta, like day one, 2 books sold, day three, 1 book sold, and then a week later another one. So for me, it's like not maybe focusing on those bigger long-term goals without actually, being mentally kind of drained by what's happening in the currently, sort of thing.
So
If you know what I mean. Yeah.
let me see if I understand. So, you know, that's why I love marketers, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody's so hungry for strategy, but the key is not
Yeah.
in the strategy. The key is in the 95%, which is the mindset. But you understand that, so
Yeah.
props. Um, so let me see if I got it right. So it would be super valuable for you to understand what would be the mindset to elevate book sales, if I understand correctly, or elevate or also your agency.
Book sales, like we can talk about that, because that's probably the most relevant for your audience. Because for me, the books, the agencies with the other team, and
Forget
but for
about the
me,
audience. It's just us right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So let's make it about you.
Yeah, it really, because the okay, so the book sales, because it's one of the newest things for me to be. It's with anybody that creates something on their own.
Right.
It is it's an expression of yourself. So
Let me
being, yeah,
let me ask you a different question. What would it
yeah.
take to add another 500 to a million in revenue in the next 12 months to the agency?
A few more people, that sort of thing. Yeah,
What
it's
type?
kind
Like
of.
which positions for?
I think for us, it's really about outreach. It's really about letting more people know that we exist, and
Okay,
what we do and what we're capable of. So that's kind of
perfect.
one of our Achilles
Well,
heels in this.
got it. Yeah, that's another common theme, right? The thing that you do for others with your hands tied behind your back, you're still in the process of doing for yourself, you know.
Yeah,
What would it take to add another 5 to 10 million into your agency? And let me know if like
yeah,
this is not a focus, but for the sake of the experiment, to add another
yeah.
5 to 10 million to your agency in the next, let's say, 18 months.
I think that, well, that's with the waterfall effect. It is finding a correct group, or an engine of onboarding or sales, and then from that, because the capacity with the agency itself doesn't really. We need more. Like, obviously, with sales also comes work and business and hours. So it
Right.
is that balance between what is the agency look like from a sales perspective, from bringing
Perfect.
on clients, to then finding enough people inside the agency to do that work and execute it. So it is that
Got it.
balance of, yeah.
So who is your target client right now? Your ideal client?
We're working with a lot of private equity and venture cap funds. Yeah, that's kind of, we've been very successful with working with them and their clients. Part of where our
And
agency, yeah,
they hire you for what specific outcome?
we are so the agency that I work for, that we work with, like, that we built, is it's a meshing of advisory and agency. So this is a big thing where advisory, where a lot of people do long, like big time, like big long term case studies on the industry. They advisory, companies do a lot of the insights, do a lot of business planning, a lot of the calculations and analytics within any kind of industry. And usually what happens is that a lot of clients will get, the document at the end, they'll get their sort of their findings, but they're not really sure what to do with it. Whereas,
Right.
running an agency, you love those insights, but, a lot of clients don't do them or they don't have them, because really as an agency to do marketing properly, it's best to have all those insights and analytics. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so what we've done is we've kind of melded the two. So it's seamless between finding the insights and doing that long-term business strategy, growth, the growth strategy, growth marketing, growth strategy for them. And
Yeah.
then once that gets fine-tuned and sort of like approved, then it goes right into the execution stage, which is where the agency kind of picks up. So
Got it.
to answer your first question about how that fits for a lot of private equity and VC funds is that their clients who they're investing in or they're putting money towards, a lot of those clients they need those insights, they need that research, and also the team to execute it on. So we kind of let's just say we help make sure that the money that was invested kind of goes for the things that are going to provide growth.
Got it.
Yeah, because a
So
lot of times, what we kind of protect against is a lot of the firms that, they might take if they get $1 million, they might take, 900,000 of that and put it towards R&D, which
right.
leaves very little for the go-to-market side of it, right? So that's exaggeration, but
Nah,
when you
I
give a company, they're going to invest it in themselves versus what it looks like externally, and that's
I love
really,
it.
yeah. So that's where
It's
that's what we help out with.
it's the yin and yang, what I call the yin and yang approach to business, right? Because
Yeah,
for myself, it's like most coaches give you mindset, but they're like, okay, how the hell do I get sales? And on the flip
yeah,
side, they give you strategy, but okay, the mindset is not there. So you absolutely need both, right? So you give them basically the analytics, right? You analyze the data, but you also create the campaigns for them to get obviously more business,
yeah,
get more of the
yeah,
clients, the people that they want to work with. Beautiful. So here's what's coming for me right now for you. Because you have an elite target audience, you literally have two options of going to market for yourself. And let me know if this is resonating
yeah,
and share anything that's coming up for you. So you either go the Alex Hormozy route of giving your book away for free to millions and millions of people and having millions and millions of people know about you. And
yeah,
out of that, the 0.0000001% of the million
yeah,
are going to be your ideal clients who say, hey, I want to work with you because you're
yeah,
the top dogs. Or the other one, you adjust the book to be hyper targeted for this niche and you send it
hmm,
out, you mail it to these people instead of doing like any type of digital
yeah,
campaign, which is a different approach. So,
yeah.
um, what's coming up for you?
It is sort of it. I think for us it would be the targeted campaign in that because it is creating something a little bit more specific, a little bit more targeted. Um, you have
Mm-hmm.
that kind of that loss. You kind of you invest in that for these people. So it is. It also too. I think it's when you mail something to people, or the we're not so much in a tangible world anymore. It's all very digital.
Exactly.
So when you do
Exactly.
have
It's
something
very valuable.
tangible, it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it feels nice. It looks nice. There's also someone was talking about even printing business cards or something like that because I think even now you look at the cost of like a lot of people don't want to put the cost into doing printing business cards anymore because it's so digital or you can easily zap
A
a
book is
QR
going to
code on
be
LinkedIn.
a book
So
versus a business card is
yeah,
like this
yeah,
and like over here. So like
yeah,
imagine going to an event with you know
yeah,
VCs or
yeah,
whatever, and instead of giving
yeah,
people your business card, you just hand out your book for free, and they're like,
yep,
"Holy crap!" Right?
yeah.
Now, if you are gonna go this targeted route, are you open to any feedback around the book and the packaging?
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of yeah.
Cool. So let
what that
me.
is, and that's kind of yeah. You know what? I'm being in the industry for as long as I have. You know, you always want as much feedback because it is not insight that you would normally think of. So having someone
Mhm.
sit in another, you know, seeing at it from another perspective is
Yeah.
always, you know, is always key. Yeah,
So, I'm gonna put a screenshot of the book so
yeah,
people, watching the video can see
yeah,
what we're seeing as well. If you're going the hyper target route and targeting, like I'm having such a lapsus. So it
VCs
was a
in
VC
private equity.
and
Yeah,
private equity, great. So that needs to be somewhere in the title, like who it's for,
yeah.
right? And maybe the punchier for what you don't see coming. So. Is the book finalized, the content of the book?
Yeah, it is, but it's also since it's self-published, I'm also
Great.
I'm doing
You can
other
play around
versions
with it
with
however.
other
Yeah.
industry. So it is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I would flip it a bit on its head, in the sense that your headline is a bit more punchier and more attractive, and more clear than the
yeah,
actual book cover because blind spots can be anything. It can be traffic signs or whatever,
yeah.
right? So great. I would make the end goal a bit more obvious and also how to
Hmm.
prepare for what you don't see coming. Again, it has no indicator that this is going to solve a marketing problem, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And who it's going to solve the problem for. So your go-to resource to help you manage your next marketing projects, resources and team even better. Yeah, it could be a bit more refined, right? So it
yeah.
would be like something along the lines, what would you say is the most common problem that your target audience has that is extremely painful, aka costly, they have some sort of awareness around, and that your book can solve as is?
Hmm.
Long question, but I think you
Yep.
get where I'm heading, right?
No, I do, and I think this is. I think the way that the book is structured and written, it's a walkthrough from beginning to end of a marketing project. So it's the way it's written. It's written in kind of four chapters, and each one of those
Mm-hmm.
chapters is really relevant to whatever a time within that project. So before you start the project, here's everything that you should know. Here's everything, all the insights, and then sort of like then the second part is hiring a team, and then the third chapter is about when you're in the project, what's how to edit, all those sort of things you need as you're in the middle of project, and the final chapters like as you're doing it and wrapping up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like it's not sort of the problem itself, but it's sort of helping people. It's like a pilot on a plane. It's sort of like there's that checklist from
Mm-hmm.
beginning to
Mm-hmm.
end that they go through, and it's just each one of the chapters has those multiple insights. But one of the things also too that I've added into this book is that each one of those insights has what I'm calling a blind spot, which is the consequence if you don't do it. Yeah, so that's
Yes.
that's kind
So
of so
maybe
each so
something
it's yeah,
something along
yeah,
the lines of 10 blind spots. I'm
okay,
spitballing,
yeah, yep,
you can
yep.
play around
Keep
with
going.
it.
Yeah, I love these
10
sessions. Yeah.
10 blind spots that VC and private equity companies fall
Mm,
into that
yeah.
cost them billions or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
So it's like, okay, it's 10 blind spots, right? What are they? 10 marketing blind spots,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
That blah blah that target audience suffers from or falls into or whatever, right? You can play, and how to avoid them, something like
Yeah.
that. That costs you
Yeah.
something, and then how to avoid it. So like whenever you associate a tangible cost to something, people tend to pay more attention because they hate losing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a book like that,
Yeah.
I mean, you send the book. It might be perfect for your target audience, but if you send it as is to this target audience, even physically, it's like, okay, blind spot, okay, cool, whatever, right? They might not even read it, they might not even open it, but
No, it's
having like
that's yeah.
cost and
Yeah.
it's for you, it's like, holy crap, I don't want to lose.
Yeah, that's no, that's because when you make it again, great insight on this. Because when you make it relatable to them and a consequent to them personally, is when you're going to get the most kind of traction and insight, and when you're going to get that, oh, that's me, and they can see
Yes.
themselves in that situation. And as you know, if the more personalized you can make it and to what their problems are, and the consequences, that being how much you could lose. You know, monetary, exactly. Money is always a big thing because it's kind of it's weird, isn't it? From a perspective of when people look at money versus time. Time
Hmm.
is such a soft thing. They don't realize how much, you know, one of the blind spots
Yeah,
I was talking
exactly.
about with somebody is like, you know, when you hire the wrong person, let's say to do a website, and although you might lose a little bit, you lose money on, you know, if you don't go, if the project doesn't, you know, reach its finality, or it doesn't get launched, or you decide to part ways halfway through the project, you lose a little bit of money. But what's really not also seen is how much time you lose, because now you have to, you know, now that's business time that you've also lost in revenue from when you might launch that website, when you might have launched that website, to the when you can get the business going. So now, if projects get cut off halfway and you kind of part ways, or something happens and now you have to find
Yep.
a new contractor, they have to get going and everything else. So
Yeah,
that's also
I
the time value of that's enormous,
I
right?
hear
So
you. I
yeah,
hear you. Unfortunately,
yeah,
as humans, we tend to see money as more of a tangible than
yes,
time as in more of an intangible. So we tend to kind of prioritize it less.
yeah.
And it's
As you know,
crazy, but
yeah,
that's how we're wired, right?
yep,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I think just making these adjustments and then
That's yep,
flooding every
yeah,
single, like, even like across the world, you could send this
yep,
book and they're gonna be
yep.
like, okay, this is cool, right?
You've
And
inspired me. So they honestly, now I've got actually not just this, but now I've got a few other things, even LinkedIn posts on this as well. So now I've got an
there you go.
entire you've a waterfall of ideas, and this is how my brain works. As you know, not just the book, but even doing articles and through that on LinkedIn. So yeah, great insights. Thank you.
Want to work with me to scale your business and team without sacrificing your freedom? I only work with a handful of exceptional leaders. So please take my free 3-minute assessment to have complete clarity on what adjustments you need to make right now in your business and leadership so you scale effectively and sustainably without being the bottleneck in your business. Link is in the description. Now let's continue. Beautiful, beautiful. Where can people check out the book after, right? Even if it's I
Yep.
obviously the content is super valuable, guys. We're talking about 20 years of marketing experience, right? So I would
Yep.
check it out either way. Where can they get the book?
The blindspotshandbook.com is where they can get it pretty much internationally. And yeah, it's if you are running a small business or doing a side hustle or just ready to launch anything, I would highly suggest getting it, because it's all those hard lessons I've learned over the years that, you know, will save you that. But also, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I'm always sharing tips and tricks and all those sort of insights that I have, and producing a lot of content on LinkedIn, from both marketing and projects and things like that. So, and I would I would put it out there for your audience as well, is that if they have any marketing or branding questions, if they're in a tight spot with a contractor, feel free to reach out to me and sort of say, hey, I'm in this sticky situation. Can you help me out of it? I'd be more than happy to kind of help you and walk you through, because that's yeah, it's a tough thing being in those situations and not knowing who to speak with sometimes. So
Yeah.
feel free to reach out and ping me on LinkedIn. That's probably where I live the most lately. So
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Same here. I'll link both your LinkedIn and the book in the description. Um, and before we wrap up, what would you say was your most valuable insight from our conversation?
getting a targeted, like understanding who my target market is, and maybe getting a little bit more specific in their language, and finding something for like, getting into the mind of the the end client specifically for the target market of private equity and VC funds, and figuring out what their pain points are, but then creating a version of the book specifically for them, to help them work through their their specific problems. So that is probably the biggest thing, is in that reworking it that way. So that's probably the biggest
And
one. Yeah.
awesome. And I would say once those adjustments are made, I would just make it free, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody who's not in this niche, they're not gonna get it. They're not gonna download it.
Yeah.
But if you just put it out for free and they spend
Yeah.
time, it's like it takes 7 hours. You need to spend online with somebody 7 hours, or like reading their book at least, to feel
Yeah.
like you get to know them
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
consider doing business with them. So this is a huge tool, you know?
Yeah. It really is, and that's kind of yeah, it is, and that's it's. I think even sending, for the size of the clients that we have, and the kind of, I think, when also maybe not so much free, but if I were to invest in producing, printing and mailing them, I think that's even more of an impact, because
And I,
the size of the contracts are that much greater, and you want to make more of a splash and more of an impact. So yeah.
And I have another hack for you, but we're
Okay.
getting close to wrapping up, and I'll
Yep.
tell you
Okay.
at a later date, or after we,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this one is
Absolutely.
also huge. I think you're gonna
Okay.
love this one as well.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Brady, props again. It takes, I say this almost every time, it takes guts to do a podcast like this. So
Yeah.
this tells me that you are a leader, right? That you are leading with courage. I appreciate you, and to everyone tuning in, appreciate you guys too. You're also leaders because you're here.
I was gonna say thank you for doing what you do, and this has been fantastic and awesome insight. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Greatness and Mastery await. So don't forget to secure your free copy of Greatness and Mastery through the link in the description. It's your guide to leading with confidence and clarity. Be sure to share this episode with a friend and keep striving for mastery. I'll see you in the next episode.